Hi guys, hello. Me again. We are already on week number 6, and I am very happy to say that we are coming to an end of discussing basic data types. Maybe good news or bad news for some of you if you got attached to basic data types, but it doesn't change anything. We are coming to an end. And what's left for today is null and undefined. Although I am feeling like I could probably add a little bit extra material to the boolean. Because as I recall, there was a homework. And a good teacher always checks the homework. Since I can't check if you did your homework, I could do it. I record it, and then you could check if you got it right. So there might be a little bit of extra material coming up, but for now let's focus on what's important. And the important thing is that we are coming to an end with basic data types. So what is null and what's undefined? For me, I would say this is a value that would actually mean no value. So both null and undefined are values because they are data types, so obviously they must be. But even though it sounds stupid, these are no values. So undefined. When do we come across undefined and when do we use it? If you could open your DevTools, so open your browser, anything, new in the window about blank, and Option Command J or F12, and you're gonna see your DevTools. So for instance, if I'm gonna create a variable a and I won't give it a value, so it's just a variable a. If I press enter, and I'm gonna receive undefined. So do you remember whenever I had that, when we were discussing variables and in the console would show undefined, and I'd say this is all good guys, let's not focus on that, but it's all fine, this is not an error. The time has come, we should actually talk about undefined. So if we declare a variable but we don't initialize it with any specific value, JS is like super amazing, and it's like a built-in thing that it will just automatically give it any variable without the value, a value of undefined. So I have variable a that in my head or whatever I declared it and I might have forgotten about it, but it does exist. JS says, okay, I don't know why, I don't know what for or what you had in mind. I see that it's here and I'm just gonna give it the value of undefined. I don't want to have any problems. I don't want to cause any trouble.
I don't want any problems. Just take them down by the books.
And so that's what we're receiving. This is not an error. And this is this value that has no value. So you get what I mean now. Another thing that I could show you, and it's kind of again like beyond the material that we have discussed so far, or even like for today. But don't be scared or like too afraid that it's too advanced. It's not for you to memorize it now, only for you guys to get familiar. So it's called hoisting, not hosting, hoisting. If I do, for instance, console log, and I want console log B, you can see that B doesn't exist. And now do not press enter, shift enter to enter the new line, and I'm gonna create a variable b, but only after I tried console logging its value. I'm creating variable b and I'm gonna give it a value of 5. So now I do have variable b, but it's later on, it's like after I instructed to the console to give me the log of that value. And if you been careful enough, you know that the program is read from the top to the bottom. So technically, when we're on this line here, and I'm saying console log B doesn't exist yet. And that's when hoisting comes in handy. Like this super amazing mechanism that the JS engine would go through console log B, and already on the next line it knows there is variable B, and what it does for us, it would move that variable B to the top, but it's not perfect, so it only moves variable B, but it doesn't read its value. So we still receive undefined. So it's as if it has been moved to the top. So when it's on this line here trying to console log it, it knows it exists. So it wouldn't throw an error. But instead of giving a value of 5, it doesn't know it's 5 yet. And by default, automatically it will give you this value of undefined. If I try console logging a value that doesn't exist, it doesn't exist anywhere in the program, console log C, we will receive an error, uncaught reference error. C is not defined. So this is an error. But this isn't, and it's called hoisting. Again, not to be like something to be overwhelmed with. I don't want you guys to be overwhelmed. I just want you to get familiar with the new concept. And maybe like in the future, when we will be discussing hoisting in a lot more detail, if you pay attention and remember this example, like it all will make sense when all those mini pieces will come together. It's just, let's not get too worried at the moment. Another example when so we didn't discuss functions yet, but again, that's when we get the value of undefined. So if I try doing, we've been there, we talked about the alert. So the alert is a function, and then if I put empty parentheses, I'm saying to the program, do it. So the function will be executed. If I put something in here, I'm getting this like a mini hint what JS is expecting here. So I've got question mark message. That would be a message. So if I wanted to put something like hello world or anything in the string, that would be coming as a message in that pop-up window that you will see in just a second. Sorry, trains are like near the house. Again, so I'm gonna try executing it. It is popping out but on the other screen. I'm just gonna move it here for you guys to see. And this page says nothing because I put nothing in the parentheses, in the brackets. Let's just press OK. And so what is a message from the JS engine? Undefined. So like whenever a developer wants to return something, there is this keyword return. When we're gonna build functions, you will see. But whenever a function is not returning anything, automatically it would get the value of undefined. So if for instance I now wanted to create a variable d and give it a value of console log, and I want to console log console log is happening. The AAAA is showing in the console, but again, D is getting value of undefined because this function didn't return anything. It just happened in that moment, but it doesn't return anything. We'll discuss this in a lot more detail later on when we talk about functions, but for now we are discussing null and undefined, and so this is when undefined is like assigned automatically by JS. Something to bear in mind. Let's go back to my presentation. What have I got in store for you? No. So it means that kind of finished undefined. This isn't a lot of information, but I told you that I feel like this tutorial should be super quick. So no, if this construction here means that I'm creating a variable A and I'm assigning here an empty object. When we get to discussing objects, then again, it won't be so scary. But this empty curly braces here, it's already an object. It's just like empty object. It doesn't have anything inside. But if you can recall, the non-primitive data types are also called reference data types, and one of the examples of the reference data types is object. And so here I've created this object, and if I wanted to, let's say, not have this object anymore, I wanted to destroy it because it's garbage and it takes the memory of the program, I would have to try breaking all the references it's got to the other elements. And so I would just reassign a value of A with null. And this way, I'm like, this is no longer the non-primitive data type. It is now a basic data type, and it doesn't take the memory. So again, this has no value. But what's important is that undefined is like a sort of mechanism for the JS. So it would be like a built-in and automatically assigned to certain like variables, and null is used by a developer. So basically you could give something, a variable, a value of undefined, but we don't actually do it. So it doesn't make sense.
That does not make sense.
Sometimes, and it is common to use null, and null is used not by the JS engine, but by developers. Oh, this is interesting. So errors in JS. So JS is beautiful and, in my opinion, the most amazing language there is, but it does have errors. And do you remember type of and how to use it? So we had the type of a false, and it would give us boolean and strings. So, and type of 20, number in strings, or a type of, we could check a type of undefined. So you now know that this is an actual type, definitely. Type of undefined gives us undefined, or undefined, or sorry, type of an empty object. We checked, it does check out, curly braces, object. But type of no give us an object. So this is a mistake. And since JS is a backward compatible programming language, it's a well-known mistake, it's a well-known error in JS, and no one is planning on changing it, fixing it. It's just something worth knowing. And sometimes this question would appear in the interview if you're applying for a junior position. So again, good to know. Type of no is not a no, it would return an object. It's a weird behavior, and we all kind of have to get used to it and just make our peace with it, I guess. And let's go back to presentation. No plus 5 is 5, but undefined plus 5 is not a number. So I think when we were discussing not a number, we had those examples or similar ones, but no, by computer, by program, will be read as in as a 0, because JS would always try not to throw an error. So this would translate into 0, 0 plus 5, and it would give us 5. But undefined, JS couldn't recognize it as a number, so it would give it the value of not a number. And any operation that is on none, not a number, would return another not a number. So in this case, undefined plus 5 would give us not a number. And also, when we were discussing booleans, strings, numbers, I think I mentioned that in that fleeting moment, JS would wrap our basic data type with the object type. So if there was a string, and this is a primitive data type, for that moment when we want to access its properties or call a method like to uppercase, to lowercase, it would wrap it in a string object, and then we can call methods access its properties, and then it would return. It's you can't see it, but it's happening underneath. And so the funny thing is that it doesn't happen for null or undefined. It's exclusive to boolean and string and the number. So null and undefined had no methods or properties. It's no value. Value with no value. And last but not least, mini revision. So guys, do you remember, or can you tell me what operators are? Operators operate on operands. Operands are elements of the operation, and we've got many different operators. We've got arithmetic operators like multiplication, division, subtraction, and so on. We have a comparison operators. They can operate on one argument or more arguments. Like for instance, if we put an exclamation mark next to a value, it will just negate this value, and so on, etc. And I hope you guys can, in your own words, or explain if someone has come to you and had zero knowledge, or try imagining that you do explain it to somebody who is sitting next to you, or your little ducky. Concatenation. So in programming, we're not adding strings, we concatenate them, and it's a good word, just memorize it. Incrementation, decrementation. So when we talked about numbers, so we had a number and then plus plus, or a number minus minus. If we had a number and age and someone was like 30 years old, and that would be our variable something 30, and then we wanted to create a function that would add another year by year. And so instead of writing the whole number variable age equals age plus 1, we'll just put age plus plus, and that would increment by 1. So it would be 31 and then 32 and so on. And the same goes for decrementation with the minus instead of a plus. End of slideshow means that's the end of it. That's the end of null and undefined, and end of basic data types. Next time we'll be discussing only more advanced things. Thank you.